requires that dictators and other nations pay for crimes that they commit toward their citizens. But because of American exceptionalism, somehow we have excluded ourselves from paying for our own crimes. And it may take 5,000 years. But you don't just get to take somebody else's land.
Correct.
And not pay for it.
Correct.
Amen.
Amen.
You just don't get to go and take somebody else from their own land
My God.
and make them work on the land you stole from somebody else.
Come on.
I know I'm preaching. Thank you. I needed that help right there. And not think that at a minimum, you would not need to apologize. And set up systems and structures that support the apology.
Correct.
And I'm not necessarily talking about reparations. That's another sermon for another day. But I am suggesting, and I do believe in reparations, but what I'm talking about right now is, hear me, the mental state of the nation you live in. I think the beauty of Donald Trump, and I've said this in many spaces, and people, what I'm saying is not always popular, but it doesn't have to be. I think the beauty of this president is that he has helped to take a Band-Aid off and remove the cover. Because your generation thought that things were different. Your generation spent 8 years asleep. And I worked for the White House in the previous administration, and I stayed on the advisory council for HIV and AIDS in this current administration until I was fired. But I will tell you that the beauty of this administration is that they have exposed hypocrisy that has existed in this country. They've exposed white fragility. They have exposed black fragility. They have exposed how we have not talked about race and how we will never move forward if we do not talk about poverty and talk about the gaps that exist. Just by virtue of me talking about it now, some of you are uncomfortable because you were taught to not talk about it in certain spaces. Particularly black folk like me, we were taught to not have the conversation when our white brothers and sisters are in the room. And our white brothers and sisters were taught that it's just not appropriate to talk about race this way when we're all together, unless we're being kind to one another and not really having a conversation. Say amen.
Amen.
This is the mental state of the nation, watch this, that we have always lived in. Two things I want to say, and I'm going to sit down and won't trouble you any longer. Number one, what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about the mental state of the nation? What are you going to do about it, Outlet? I appreciate, I travel too much. I travel a lot. And I'm in conferences and meetings and summits. And I'm amazed at how we continue to have conversations and we talk over each other and we talk around the issues. And no one dare expose the elephant in the room. And this is the mental state. Why are you bringing this up, Bishop? I'm bringing it up because if we're going to talk about mental health. We've got to talk about the mental state. Thank you.
Yes.
If we're going to talk about solutions, we cannot just talk about emotional and mental and spiritual solutions for individuals. We've got to talk about mental and spiritual and emotional solutions for the entire community. And you can't talk about the tree
Come on.
and only focus on the leaves. You got to deal with the roots.
With the what? Come on, Bishop.
Look at your neighbor and say, we got to deal with the roots. Now in the black church, we talk to each other, turn to your neighbor. I can see who's turning to the neighbor, turn to the neighbor and say, we got to deal with the roots. Will we stop shouting in church long enough
Come on.
Come on now.
to deal with the roots? Dr. King said that the most segregated moment in this nation is on Sunday morning.
11 o'clock.
Are we going to deal with the roots? Are we going to continue this politically correct culture that keeps us from dealing with the roots? I am not suggesting that we create a culture, watch this, of hostility, because we don't have to. It already exists. But we just don't want to, shake things up. It's already shaken. When 1 million black men are in prison, it's already shaken.
Shake up. Shake. Preach, Bishop.
Children of Israel had been freed from Egypt, found themselves walking around a mountain. The Bible says they were going in circles. And I'm sure they probably had a summit while they were walking around in circles. I'm sure they had a convocation while they were walking around in circles.
Talk, sir.
I'm sure they had a choir rehearsal.
Mm-hmm.
They had praise and worship and drums, and they worship Yahweh.
Yeah.
Or depending on how you want to look at it, Allah.
Mm-hmm.
While they were walking in circles, they probably had praise breaks.
Probably.
While they were walking in circles.
In circles.
Church, Sunday morning, of course, these are Jews, but let me bring it into context. That they were being religious, but walking around in circles. They were probably talking about the health disparities in the community.
Mm-hmm.
They're walking around in circles. I'm sure they were doing a whole lot. But they were still, isn't it amazing how you can have convinced yourself
Yes, sir.
that everything is going well, but if someone were to really look at it, you were walking in circles. The thing that I think is important to say is that Pharaoh had already let them go. But the reality is they had not let Pharaoh go.
Hey, you preaching that.
They had already come out of Egypt. I'm preaching. I feel like preaching now.
Preach, sir.
I feel like let me calm down. I'll preach this tomorrow in my church.
You already preaching my message.
Let me bring it down. Let me bring it down. They were out of Egypt, but Egypt was not.
Out of them.
That's with anybody. I don't care your color, your gender, your orientation, your class. I don't care who you are. It is not about, am I out of Egypt? It is about, is Egypt out of me? Some of you, it's not about, am I away from my ex?
Say it, sir.
I know how to find you.
You
What's
found
your
him.
ex?
You found him.
I'm not here to entertain you. Bishop, what does this have to do with the summit? It has everything to do with it. God asked the people, I like to call them the people. I struggle with the term, the children of Israel. I use the term. Let me take you on a theological edge before I go any further, because I struggle with the group of people that say God told them, you are my people.
Right.
And I am your God, as if there was nobody else on the earth. All right, I'll leave you alone. We walk around mountains because fundamentally we don't know who we are. If you knew who you are, you would not walk around a mountain that you could speak to.
Listen, sir.
Why would you walk around a mountain that you could simply speak to? The Bible says, speak to the mountain.
That's what it says.
But you have not been taught that you have authority to speak. You've been taught that the mountain has authority to speak.
My God.
You have been taught that. I know you've been taught that. As a matter of fact, this will make you uncomfortable, but if you would allow me the moment to make you even more uncomfortable. There's a way in which this nation, we're talking about mental health, because I don't want you to just talk about therapy and counseling and not get to the roots of the culture of the nation that we live in that has historical dysfunctions.
That's good.
Sons and daughters of slaves, you were taught to be sons and daughters of slaves. Sons and daughters of slave masters, you were taught to be sons and daughters of slave masters
My God.
and benefit from the privilege. But it's not just the slave masters' children that benefit from the privilege. There's a way in which you have accepted sons and daughters of slaves. You've accepted the privilege that was given to somebody else. Thus, you don't know who you are. And then the slave master's sons and daughters don't really know who they are. One group is living off the privilege. The other group is accepting the privilege. Nobody is really privileged. Nobody is benefiting. And the globe cannot progress forward because we live in an illusion. Nobody knows who they are. I know people like me don't know who we are because I don't even have my own name.
Listen.
I have somebody else's name. Wearing somebody else's clothes.
Listen, sir.
I look like somebody else. Talk. I'm not even speaking my own language. You don't know who you are. I'll let you marinate on that. Look at someone and say, we must know who we are. We must say it. We must know who we are.
We must know who we are.
I think this mic is upset with me. We must know who we are. We will keep voting in Trumps until we know Thank you. We will keep voting in Trumps until we know who we are. HIV will continue to increase until we know who we are. As someone who has worked in the HIV field for years, people accept stigmas because they don't know who they are. You are greater than a medication. I wish everybody would clap. I think that's that. You can clap right there. You are greater than PrEP. Just because I'm on PrEP doesn't mean I am PrEP. I'm greater than a condom. You mean to tell me you limited yourself, your identity is a condom? Matter of fact, for you queer advocates and you rainbow flag toting people, I'm greater than a flag.
Come on, sir.
I'm greater than a sexual orientation. That is just one part of who I am.
Mm-hmm.
The truth is, that may not be really who I am because I'm a spirit
Yes.
Help us.
put in a body.
Yes.
I am divinity
Yes.
in humanity.
Yes.
I cannot be limited. Come on, shout, I cannot be limited.
I cannot be limited.
I cannot be. If you agree with me, clap. If you agree with your boy, clap your hands.
Hallelujah.
We will keep producing Kanye Wests
Yes.
until we get the message of who we are. That's really all I had to say. Is that part of our work must be rooted in knowing, am I good on time? It's 2 more minutes. We must know who we are. This last concept, the Bible says that we were created in the image, but this is the part we miss, and the likeness.
And the likeness.
Oh, I'm not just the image.
Correct.
I'm the likeness of God.
Say that.
So I have the likeness. See, get into this likeness part. You gotta get into the likeness. You gotta get into the likeness because that means that whatever properties are in the image and the likeness, come on, talk to me.
Come on.
Those properties are what? Within me. Whatever. Now, I know some of you, I'm a Pentecostal. So what I'm about to say will create even more tension. Because I am suggesting that whatever is in God, that is in me.
Yes, sir.
All right. Okay. I don't know. Maybe you haven't really thought about what I'm saying. We say it, we quote it, we sing it. It's even in the lyrics of our song. Sometimes it's in our liturgies, but we don't really understand it. We don't know who we are. And when you're doing work around mental health, when you're talking about prevention, when you're talking about health disparities, it is not enough to just diagnose people. You have got to tell people who they are, because when I know who I am, I'll stay on my medication. When I know who I am, I'll get in treatment. When I know who I am, I will protect myself and I'll protect you, because to know me is to know you. Shout yes.
Yes.
Good word.
I'm going to take it a step further. In John chapter 1,
Come on, Bishop.
it says the Word, come on, talk to me,
Was God. Come on now.
was God.
Yeah.
Come on, let's keep going, come on. And the Word was with God.
Yes.
That's what the book says.
That's the book.
Let me calm down. I feel like preaching. Let me calm down. The Word was God. The Word was with God. You got that? But you got to go down to the
got to read all of it.
Yes.
Because it says, and the word
Yes. Was made.
became flesh.
And it dwelt.
Come on.
And the word. Oh, wait a minute. Let me calm down. And the word became flesh. Watch this. And it dwelt
Yes, it did.
Stay.
among us.
Mm-hmm.
This word was God.
But stay.
I'm created in the likeness. Come on, walk with me. We're going somewhere. Of God.
Yeah.
Bishop.
So the same concept that applies to God applies to me. That means not only is God word,
Come on now.
not only is God word, but I'm word.
I'm word.
That's why you got legs.
Yeah.
Because the word has taken
Yeah.
on flesh.
Mm-hmm.
You are word. You may not know that. And so you've spent your whole life being somebody else. Thank you.
Yes, yes.
Shaker.
Uh-huh.
You spent your whole life buying into these ideas about your limitations.
Yeah.
What you can and cannot be and what you can and cannot do.
That's good.
Because you don't know that you're word.
My God.
Well, Bishop, are you suggesting that I am Jesus? I'll let you wrestle with that. But I will tell you this, Jesus even said, greater works.
He said it.
Did you? In other words, I am, I'm going to have to preach this tomorrow. I need to unpack this when I get back home. In other words, I am supposed to do more than Jesus did.
Right.
Say
Now,
that.
you've limited that to miracles.
Right.
You've limited that to healing. You've limited that to opening the eyes of the blind and raising the dead.
Come on. Come on.
But I am talking about the Christology of
Come on
Jesus.
now. Come on.
Mm-hmm.
Come on.
That the same Christological
Come on. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
the same Christological context for Jesus is the same thing that can apply for me. Watch this. Did you know this? Christ is not Jesus' last name. I know you thought it was. I guarantee you Mary's last name was not Christ. Joseph's last name was not Christ. Bishop, what are you saying? Jesus is his name.
Mm-hmm.
Christ is his position.
Yes.
So it's not enough for me to know my name.
Correct.
Come on.
I've got to know my position. If you know your position, you won't put up with certain things.
Listen here, sir.
Oh, I know you don't know who you are because you put up with stuff. I almost said something in my church, you know. All right. It's right there. That word is right here. It's right there. It's right there. You have to know who you are.
Yes.
And if you could ever tap into your divinity and move beyond your humanity as a human being, when we get under the skin, we're the same. But that's just the skin part. That's just the blood part.
Come on.
There is a spirit in that vessel that has the properties of God,
My God.
that allows you to be able to do anything. You are word with legs. You are word with hands. Your words are so powerful that you can make things live and you can make things die.
Yes.
If you only knew who you were. Life and death, it's in the book. Your tongue can curse and your tongue can bless. If you ever found out who you were, if this nation would first repent. Because the same thing that goes for you goes for the whole group. If we would confess our sins, watch this, to God and to one another.
Yeah.
It's not good enough to talk about the white man.
Come on. Correct.
You got to talk about the black man.
Amen.
We have sinned. All of us have sinned, and we've come short, watch this, of the glory of the likeness.
That's it. Yes.
You have glory, and we have sinned against each other. I think one day, overseer, we should have a discussion that allows us to talk and not dance around it.
Yes, sir.
This has nothing to do with your political persuasion, because both political parties are dysfunctional, crazy, strategic, and demonic to some degree,
Say that.
because, as Jesus said, it is a habitation of devils.
My God.
There are deals that are done in back rooms on both sides of the street. Come on, talk to me. One group in power demonizes the other group. Then the other group gets in power and demonizes this group. I'm gonna say, somebody may need to take this mic, because I appreciate the fact that you're all excited about somebody running in this state who looks like you.
Amen.
I think it's awesome. Even in my state, I am voting for a black woman to be the governor. Hold it. At the end of the day, I am voting for her to become Pharaoh.
Help us receive that.
You may not like what I just said, but one individual does not change the seat of power.
No. Say that.
One individual does not change 400 years of a system. A nation that was built a certain way to accommodate a certain set of ideals. This romanticization that we have about founding fathers, you may need to unpack that a little bit. Because there were systems. I'm not suggesting that democracy cannot work, but it must be built in a way that it works for everybody.
Amen.
Clap your hands if you agree with me. And it can work. It can work if we all know who we are. To know who you are is to know who someone else is.
Say that.
When I see you, I see the likeness of God. I cannot incarcerate you. I cannot demonize you. On both sides of the street, I cannot harm you. I cannot hurt you, because to harm you is to harm God. And to harm myself is to harm God. And when we harm one another, we harm the image and the likeness. Is that all right? And so, thank you for allowing me to interrogate you and to insult your intelligence and to insult the structures that exist. That is my calling. If a person does not leave my moment challenged or even irritated, then I've not accomplished my job. I will have accomplished it when you think at least about something
That's good.
that has been said. I charge you, all of you who are working in community, you cannot address my roots if you don't address yours.
Say that.
You can't tell me to go to a therapist and you don't have one.
Come on. Come on.
I appreciate you may have missed what Overseer did. He said, I'm not going to ask you to get tested. And I don't get tested myself. I cannot ask you to become the beloved community that Dr. King talked about. And I have not created a beloved community in my own self. We can't do that. This generation won't even let you. They'll spot a hypocrite in a minute.
Amen.
That's why they're not coming to church or temple or mosque.
That's true.
Not because they're anti-religious, but because this generation does not want to tolerate hypocrisy anymore.
Amen.
Amen. And I think it's a great time of revival. People say in the church, people aren't coming. Well, it's revival time. That's all. And it's forcing us to become who we have been called to become. I ask you that you be prayerful and thoughtful as leaders. I believe I'm speaking to leaders. To really think about the work that you're doing. And to be courageous. Be courageous. Tell somebody, be courageous. There are enough coward leaders out there who are just not courageous enough to tell the truth. You got to tell the truth. You have to tell the truth. And if you're going to even suggest prophetic work, you've got to speak truth to power. You're not a prophet because you told somebody they get a car in 5 days. You're not a prophet because you told somebody, yea, the Lord. No, sit your tail down and speak truth
To power. Amen.
to power. God bless you. I hope you have a great rest of the day.